Okay, my name is Jessica, and I'm going to be doing an informative speech today on the impact of drug abuse. So, growing up, I looked up to my big brother like he was the greatest thing in the world. He is almost 6 years older than me, so everything he did in my eyes was the greatest thing ever. That is until he got to be a teenager and started doing drugs and drinking alcohol recreationally. Even still, in my eyes, my brother could do no wrong. As we both continued to get older, his problem became just that, a problem. He was so bad with drinking alcohol that he would experience blackouts and got sick enough times with his pancreas before he decided to stop drinking. When he made that decision, his drug use picked up where his drinking left off. For years, my family witnessed his downward spiral while he struggled with the cocaine and crack cocaine addiction. Like many people who are addicts, these highs he was experiencing started to not be enough. He then graduated to using pills along with still using his normal substances. So many times he has been to rehab. So many times he has tried and unsuccessfully attempted to get clean. So many times he left my family in despair and feeling hopeless and empty. Just when we thought we couldn't go through anymore, my brother graduated from using pills to heroin. Heroin addiction is terrifying for everyone that goes through it. It's like playing Russian roulette. You're playing with your life and death every time you use. I cannot describe to you how it feels to just wait for a phone call telling me my brother is OD'd and died. Like so many of my classmates, friends, and many others from my generation. Although he has OD'd a few times, we haven't lost him yet. I say yet because the struggle still continues with addiction. This leads me to my first main point. The drug problem facing our country has become an epidemic of epidemics. According to the National Survey on Drug Use and Health, 21.5 million American adults aged 12 and older have battled a substance abuse disorder in the year 2014. How alarming is this considering America's population is 325.7 million people? In particular, the heroin epidemic is the most critical thing we've faced as a country in a long time. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention stated that from 2015 to 2016, heroin overdose deaths rates increased by 19.5%, with nearly 55,500 people dying in 2016 alone. Families are losing their loved ones left and right. The trail of devastation that drug addiction leaves behind is unlike anything most of us have ever seen or experienced before. Families are losing their sons and daughters, their brothers and sisters, their aunts and uncles, and not only that, but the children that are being left behind with no parents to look after him. But children are being left behind with no parents to look after them. They are being made orphans due to the number of overdose deaths. Not only are kids suffering the death of their parents, but because of the parents being addicted to drugs, the children are often left neglected, which leads them to be removed from the home. Children are without a doubt the most devastated by this opioid crisis. Tom Zilic wrote an article for the Akron Beacon Journal titled "Ohio Struggles to Care for the Children Left Behind in the Opioid Crisis." He tells us that there are so many children left behind that the foster system cannot keep up with the demand for homes, let alone getting the children the help they need from losing a parent or parents to drug addiction. This loss can either be death or just losing them to addiction in general, meaning sadly they care more about the drug or drugs than their own children. German Lopez, author of How to Stop the Deadliest Drug Overdose Crisis in American History, tells us that this is the deadliest drug overdose crisis in U.S. history. In 2016 alone, drug overdoses killed more Americans than the entire Vietnam War and car crashes, gun violence, and HIV/AIDS ever did in a single year. It's obvious the devastating effects that drug abuse has on families, especially children. To look at my visuals, I have a couple things here that reflect drug abuse. Particularly over here, it says, did you know 44 people die from prescription drug overdose every single day in the United States? This young woman overdosed and was found after she was already dead. This picture right here This is from the article that Tom Zillage did on the children being left behind in the opioid crisis or suffering. This happened in Ohio, here in Ohio. And the two parents were passed out in their car in the middle of the street, and the little boy was left in his car seat in the back. Here a young man has overdosed, and his mother is clinging to him in the hospital. It's very sad. So now that we've seen what the effects of drug abuse can do, let's take a look at what it's costing America. The cost of alcohol and drug abuse is estimated at $820 billion in the United States, and it's rising. There is more money being spent on drugs and alcohol in this country than there's being spent on cancer research. That's hard to believe. This is a major red flag for something that is more than a crisis. It is costing not only us people as American citizens, but it's also costing our government, which in turn affects us as American citizens. It's a vicious cycle, a hamster wheel that just keeps spinning and spinning. To help stop this, the government has implemented policies on opioid drugs, limiting the number of painkiller narcotics that people can be prescribed. This limits also the number and cuts down the number of potential overdoses. The government has also given money for treatment funding, allowing people with drug addictions to get the help that they desperately need. So to summarize, the drug problem in our country has gotten so out of control that it greatly affects us people and our economy. If we don't do something more drastic and quickly, more and more children and families are going to keep suffering and losing people we love. It is also costing our country a lot of money in taxes for rehab centers and the legal system, which the legalities of drug addiction and the cost of that would be an entirely different speech in itself. But the legal system for when they get caught possessing, using, or selling illegal substances. We must do more to stop this epidemic. The policies and funding for drug treatment are proving it's not enough to put a dent in the amount of drug use. Until something more intensive is done, we are going to keep seeing high fatality rates, and we are going to have to keep paying the price tag for addiction. Thank you.